All right, guys. Today we're going to be doing day one of the O.J. Simpson notes. Remember yesterday we went over the L.A. race riots a little bit, and I did tell you I'm going to put a PowerPoint note or two on here for you guys to reference, and I'm going to have that up for you in the next day or two. But today we're going to start day one of the O.J. Simpson notes. Now, if you look at these PowerPoints, they're a little different than other PowerPoints I do. I'm going to be honest with you. I'll give you a quick update. I made this PowerPoint in my criminal justice class in college, and I got a B on it. So I'm upset about that. I feel this is A work, but the professor gave me a B on it. But we're going to use these ones here anyway. Now, if you guys have already looked through these notes, they look extensive, and you're probably like, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to study all this? You only need to worry about the stuff I am going to tell you to focus on. All right. The test is it's like 35 questions, but it's pretty easy stuff. So do not, when you look at these, stress and say, "Oh my gosh, what all do I need to know? Am I going to be able to do all this?" Trust me, you'll be fine. All right. So open up those PowerPoint notes as you see where it says the O.J. Simpson murder case. This was and probably still is the most famous trial ever. Like I said, I wish I had you guys in class because I have so many clips to show you guys. But if you happen to have ESPN Plus, and if you don't, you need to get it. ESPN Plus is awesome. They have the 5-part documentary called O.J. Simpson Made in America. And it's phenomenal. It shows his entire life. It shows up through his relationship with Nicole, the murder, the trial, all those sorts of things. So I really, really suggest you check that out. But either way, let's take a look at the first slide. O.J. Simpson, born in San Francisco. He was an American football player. That's what he's, well, before this, most known for. He was a running back for the Buffalo Bills. In college, he was a running back for the University of Southern California. One of the greatest running backs ever. Okay? Give you an idea of how good he is. This past year at the Super Bowl, he was still named part of the All-Century team. So even among all this stuff, it's hard to deny his greatness on the field. But obviously all of that is overshadowed by this case, even though he was found not guilty. We're going to look in this chapter as to, yes, he was found not guilty, but if this case was happening today, it might be a little bit different. So, what he is accused of, what he is most famous or infamous for, if you will, is the killing of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ron Goldman. Okay, so go down to the next slide where it says the murder. The murder happened on June 12th, 1994. Now, let me give you a little bit of a background as to who Ron Goldman was with it, because a lot of people say, was she having a relationship with Ron Goldman? Was, something else going on with them? Ron Goldman was legitimately in the wrong place at the wrong time. Earlier that day, and like I said, Nicole and OJ are separated at this point. I don't think their divorce is finalized, but they're separated. But they do attend their daughter's dance recital not together. They didn't go together, but they both went to their daughter's dance recital. After the dance recital that day, Nicole went to dinner with her mother and her daughter and a couple other people. At the dinner, Nicole's mom, or maybe it was Nicole, I can't remember which one, accidentally left their sunglasses there. Okay? And Ron knew the Simpsons. Okay, you got to remember, this is in the Brentwood part of Los Angeles, a very small, pretty lavish area. So he knew who she was. So Ron was a waiter at this restaurant. And when he finds out that Nicole accidentally left her sunglasses there, he tells her, "Don't worry, I'll just drop them off to you on my way home from work." And she goes, "Oh, that's awesome. That's perfect." Unfortunately for him, he happens to be dropping them off when the murder is taking place. All right, so Nicole and Ron Goldman are found stabbed and slashed to death. It was at her condominium in Brentwood. Here's how the bodies were discovered. The neighbor early that morning around 4 a.m. was taking her dog out for a little walk and go to the bathroom and whatever. And as she was doing that, the neighbor was hearing Nicole's dog bark. And it was a little weird because the dog was outside. It was 4 in the morning. It just seemed a little odd. So the neighbor walks over to Nicole's fence because there was like a fenced in area where you can get in. And when the neighbor went over there, that's when the neighbor saw the body of Nicole and blood everywhere. So neighbor immediately calls the police. The investigation is looked at. It turns into a murder investigation. All these sorts of things. Next slide where it says the investigation. Of all of those police officers and detectives searching it, there's only one you need to know as far as the name, and that is Mark Fuhrman. Mark Fuhrman is going to come into play later on here in these notes. Okay? So when the detectives are there, they find out that the children are there, but they were upstairs asleep. They didn't hear anything. Now you may be saying, this is a grisly murder. How did that happen? Well, it happened late at night. And if you look at, and when we talk about some of the wounds that the victim suffered, they probably wouldn't be able to scream necessarily, even though what you'll see with Ron is Ron literally fought for his life as far as fighting back with the person, the murderer. Now here was the weird thing. So the police then go to OJ's house. OJ is not yet a suspect, but remember, that is still technically his wife. So they go to OJ's house. When they go to OJ's house, they see OJ's Bronco. It's a white Ford Bronco. And there's blood on the outside of the Bronco. Well, now all of a sudden, the murder has taken a turn. Could this be a double murder? Maybe OJ's dead too. But, if you're a detective and you see blood on the outside of the husband's car, the husband's probably going to become a suspect. Well, it turns out OJ Simpson is in Chicago. Now, right away, you guys may be like, how's he in Chicago? Wait a minute, I thought he was the killer. Bear with me. OJ took a flight out of Chicago late that night. His plane took off what they believe to be a little over an hour after the murders happened. So, conceivably, it still could have happened, right? Actually, it's very plausible that he could have done that. So they get to OJ's house, they see the blood on the car, but OJ's not there. So they call OJ at his hotel, and they say to him, your wife is dead. Now think about this for a second. If you're a husband or you're a wife, and the police call, and they say, your spouse, who is young, who is healthy, and they say she's dead, what would your first question be? Probably how? How did she die, right? OJ never says that. OJ kind of just says, okay, thank you. And that's it. And from that point, the cops were like, because they didn't tell him that she was murdered. They just said, she's dead. So when the cops get off the phone with him, they're like, he never asked how she died. And right away, their light bulbs are going off thinking, we need to really look into this guy. So, go down to the next slide where it says the arrest. So OJ is brought in for questioning. And as he's brought in for questioning, they notice he has a cut on his finger, on his index finger, like right on his knuckle. Now, I want you to keep this in mind for a second because when they looked at the bodies, when they looked at the crime scene, there was a trail of blood leading away from the bodies, like drips of blood going away from the bodies. That wasn't Nicole's, wasn't Ron's. And now they're looking at OJ and he's got a cut on his finger. And you may say, well, how much blood's really going to come from a cut on the finger? If he's cut on his finger and he's doing the crime, obviously his adrenaline's going to be going, his blood pressure's going to be up, his heart's going to be pounding. So blood's going to be coming out more than you would think. So when you see like the blood splatters around the crime scene, it does kind of make sense. So they ask OJ, they say, where'd that blood come from? And here was the issue. He goes, oh, I cut it on a piece of glass. I was very angry um, when I found out that Nicole died, and I kind of lost it in the hotel room, and I broke a piece of glass and cut my finger. Not long after that, another detective asked him the same question. They said, "What? Hey, how'd you get the cut on your finger?" And he says, "Oh, I cut it golfing." So very quickly, you have two different stories that OJ has about how he got the cut on his finger. Cut it on a piece of glass at the hotel, cut it golfing. And like I said, doesn't really seem to make sense, but either way. A few days later, June 17th, 1994, the police issue a warrant for the arrest of O.J. Simpson. They feel they have enough evidence to arrest him. O.J. agrees to turn himself in at 11 a.m. that day. 11 a.m. rolls around. O.J. doesn't turn himself in. Noon comes around. No O.J. 1 p.m. No O.J. This is when O.J.'s very good friend and eventually becomes one of his lawyers, Robert Kardashian, issues or reads a letter that was written by O.J. Now you may say, Kardashian. Yes, that is Kim's, Khloe, Courtney, and Rob Jr.'s father. Okay, the other ones, Kylie and Kendall, and I'm not sure if there's any other ones. That is Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner's kids, but the oldest ones, that is Robert Kardashian's kids. And Robert Kardashian years later ends up dying. He gets, I believe, esophageal cancer. But anyway, Kardashian reads this letter, and the letter essentially seems like a suicide note from OJ. He apologizes to what happened to Nicole. He doesn't admit it. He says he didn't do it, but he talks about how he loved Nicole and, you know, he wishes she was still alive and he's going to be with her soon. All these sorts of things. So the media takes this as he's giving a suicide note. Then they ask Kardashian. They said, "Well, where is he?" He said, "I don't know." About an hour later, they cut in. This is Game 6 of the NBA Finals, by the way, in 1994. And it's, I believe, Houston versus Indiana. Or maybe Houston versus the Knicks. I'm not a basketball fan. I watch sports. Sorry for you basketball guys. But anyway, the first time ever in a national championship, they cut into something else. And live on TV, you see a white Ford Bronco driving across the highway being followed by police officers. A lot of people at the time, including myself, thought that was OJ's Bronco because it's the exact Bronco that had the blood on the outside, or the exact make and model. Here's the deal, it's not. This Bronco was his best friend's. AC goes by, his name is Al, but he goes by AC Cowlings. This is one of OJ's football buddies. OJ and Al had such a strong friendship that AC bought the exact same make and model Bronco that OJ had. So when you see this Bronco driving down the highway, and I'm sure you guys may have seen clips on it before, or you can YouTube it, it's everywhere. That's not OJ's Bronco where the blood was found on. This is Al's Bronco. So as they're driving along the freeway, AC calls the police. And he tells the detective, "Get the cops off my back," because the cops are following him. It's not a high-speed chase, it's a low-speed chase. The reason he wants them off his back is OJ's in the back seat with a gun to his head, threatening to kill himself. And Al is saying, "We're just trying to get to OJ's house." And that's where he was going. His mom was at his house. And OJ eventually gets on the phone. And he says, "Please, just let me get to my house." And OJ keeps talking about, "I'm going to be with Nicole soon. I'm sorry for what happened. I didn't do it." Those sorts of things. But the police, now they're not telling him they're not believing him because they don't want him to hurt himself. They don't want him to hurt others. But the police aren't buying it. And one of the detectives say is whenever suspects become suicidal or do commit suicide, not always, but more often than not, that's almost an admission of guilt. And they would say, you know, if OJ really definitely didn't do it, why is he attempting suicide, or why is he threatening suicide? If he didn't do it, he would be fighting, saying, "No, I did not do this." But either way. So OJ, and keep in mind, millions of people in the country are watching this. This is all over live TV. And by millions, I mean half of the country is watching this on TV. And if your TV is on at this time, this is what you're watching. But either way, the cops don't pull him over. They let him get to his house. And he does get there. And as they're getting there, the people of LA are realizing what's going on too. So they're flooding the freeways. There's signs everywhere. There's people cheering for him. All these sorts of things. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. But either way, he gets to his house. And he's in his house for about 15, 20 minutes. And then he finally comes out in handcuffs. He's cuffed. He's arrested. It was a very long ordeal, but either way, he's there. He's now in jail throughout the court case and all those sorts of things. And that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the evidence that says that OJ did it. And we're going to be looking at the trial, who his lawyers were, including Robert Kardashian, and the eventual verdict. We probably won't get all of that tomorrow. We'll probably do about half tomorrow, half Thursday. What I'm leaning towards is I'm going to give you guys the review stuff Friday, and your test will probably be on Monday. Okay? Hope all this was good for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns, any of those things. All right? Be seeing you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye.